everybody, and welcome back to Dusty Book Sniffers. My name's Nicole, and today we're here for another in-depth book review from the Women's Prize for Fiction long list. It's a book number, 4 that I'm going to be reading today, so let's get started. Good evening, everybody, and welcome back to the channel. Thank you for taking some time out of your day and spending it with me while I prattle on about the book that I'm about to read, which I actually have no idea what it's going to be. So what I'm doing this year to making it a little bit more interesting, I'm still sticking with the fact that I'm going to be reading every book on the long list, and I'm reading every book in its entirety. I am not DNFing a book because, you know, sometimes we can get to a certain point and then the book just turns around and we end up finding a little hidden gem. So I do that. I do DNF in other instances, but with this list, I just don't DNF. So basically, I am now going to spin up book 4, and together we're going to find out what I'm reading. Okay, let's spin and find out what I'm going to be reading next. A Little Trickerie. I don't know much about this one, so let's find out about it. Okay, so I am reading A Little Trickerie by Rosanna Pike. Interesting. This is a historical fiction, and historical fiction is my jam. I love a good historical fiction, so I'm excited about that. So yeah, I have taken down a few notes and everything, and basically, as I said, it is a historical fiction. On Goodreads it says it comes in at 304 pages, but then on Storygraph it says it comes in at 384 pages. So I don't know what to believe. So it's somewhere in between that, we'll just say, shall we? So it's over a 300-page book. It is also been out since August of last year, and it was put out by Fig Tree Publishing. Basically, I've had a little bit of a look on Storygraph, and it's saying that the top 4 moods from it is emotional, adventurous, funny and hopeful. So as I said in another video, that I'm treading lightly when someone says a book is funny, because I have been tricked in the past, let's say. And funny enough, that book actually has the title Trickster in the title, so I should have known. But yeah, so and I believe that according to the people that have reviewed it, and there's been 106 people that have reviewed it over on Storygraph, and it is supposed to be a medium paced. It's plot and character driven. It is has strong character development. It's got lovable characters, it's got a diverse cast, and it is also focusing on the flaws of the main characters. So I'm excited about that. I know nothing else about this book. I know absolutely nothing about this author. So I'll be going on a little bit of a journey and finding out a little bit more about them and what they're all about and whatnot. But it does say here that it's historical fiction, literary fiction, so literary historical, and it's also falling under the categories of British literature and LGBTQIA+. So that's interesting. It comes in audiobook as well. You can get it as an audiobook and also a Kindle. It's had 115 written reviews on Goodreads. It's had 466 ratings in total, and it's coming in at a 4.24 rating on Goodreads and a 4.1 on Storygraph. So leading me to believe that it's going to be an interesting book. I'm probably going to I've got this one on Kindle, but I have a lot of stuff to do today, so I'm probably actually going to try and find it on audio. If not, I've got a credit there, so I'll just use that for this. It just came in, so I'm like, okay, cool, no worries. I don't have anything else that I need to get at this point. So I am just going to sit down, have my morning cuppa, and get stuck into this. And of course, I will check in once I've got to around about 100 pages. It's usually around 30%, 33% that I've been checking in for this list. But I'm enjoying what I've been reading so far, so I'm hoping that this one is going to be good as well. Now, I have heard a couple of people talk about this and said that they've been really enjoying it, especially the audio, and that's why I'm leaning towards going and getting the audio, because then at least I have, you know, have that option to enjoy that as well. So, and I a lot of times will immersively read anyway, so I sit down and read, and I just have the audio going as well. Helps me keep focused and whatnot, because I have a million things going on in my brain at times with all the things that I do, so it gets a little bit distracting. So what exactly is this about? Let us have a look, because I have not looked anything up. The little blurb on a Storygraph says, A Little Trickerie by Rosanna Pike is ideal for readers who enjoy gritty, character-driven historical tales about cunning underdogs navigating societal oppression through wit and found family and morally complex schemes. I thought it said themes. I'm like, no, I did see schemes there. So yeah. And that's, I think, you know what? That's all I really want to know at this point in time. So, the main character, by the looks of it, was born a vagabond. Tib Ingleby has never had a roof over her own, but her mother has taught her that if you are not too bound by big man's rules, there are many ways a woman can find shelter in this world. Now her ma is dead in a trick gone wrong, and young Tib is orphaned and alone. Wow. Okay, so that's where we're going to have the found family and all that sort of stuff. It doesn't really say how, like, if she's a young protagonist or not. So I like this little blurb. It says, listen, my one-time friend Maria did tell me once, make your own paradise. I like that. Since this world is no sweet place for people like us. Well, make your own paradise tip. Obviously talking to the main character. That's a nice little quote. I like that. Because the world is not a sweet place. So yeah, you may as well make your own paradise. I agree with that wholeheartedly. All right, I'm going to get on with the rest of my day, and I'm going to get stuck into this book. As I said, I will come back at around the 100-page mark, 33%, whatever comes first. Well, the 100-page will probably come first, because we don't know how big this book is, because we've got conflicting, even on Storygraph, there's confliction as well. So, hey, we'll find out together, I guess. All right, I'm going to head off and get on with the rest of my day. I will check in and let you know my general thoughts about the book and the themes and all that sort of stuff. Hi, everybody, and welcome back. All right, so I'm here to talk about A Little Trickerie by Rosanna Pike. This is a historical fiction, which I think I've said in the beginning anyway. And this has 4 top moods in it, which is emotional, adventurous, funny, and hopeful. It is a medium-paced book, and I would actually probably disagree with that. I would say that it was pretty fast-paced in my opinion, because I started this book and finished it in one day, and I didn't even do a check-in. So I'm here to do the check-in, the wrap-up, and all the things for this book. I absolutely 100% fell into this story and just did not want to stop reading. So we're following the main story. The main protagonist is Tib, and she is a vagabond. She has lost her mother and also her baby sister, and she is alone when she meets Ivo on a secluded beach, and they end up becoming really good friends, and they forge a life together basically, and that is, and over time, like they're you know, getting to know one another and all that sort of stuff, and you know, he's very caring, and she's, it's actually done in such a, like, I ended up listening to the audio on this, even though I had it on my Kindle. I ended up getting the audio because of time constraints and whatnot. But the narrator of this book, which for the life of me, I did not write this down. I'm so bad for this. But the narrator did a fantastic job with this. And the way, and because I didn't immersive read it, I didn't really pay attention to the writing style or anything like that. But basically, we're inside Tib's head. And Tib is like trying to work her place in the world, essentially. And you basically, she's talking to, a lot of times she's talking to her mother. So she's having this conversation with her mum, and And so and all the things that her mother had told her throughout her life. And we first meet Tib when she's 14 years old. And I think Ivo was about 15, 16 when we first met him. And he and her are, you know, just in survival mode. They're on this beach. He meets her and she's got her baby sister, and he helps her through that. And then he helps her to see things in a different light about her mum. And, you know, she's up in the stars and all this sort of stuff. And it just started out as a really beautiful story. And then subsequently, they end up, a guy ends up coming onto the beach and saying that he's going to brand them with a V because they're a vagabond. And this is a bad thing because they actually have no home, they have no job, they're essentially stealing, and, you know, they're just trying to survive and stuff. But they had been living off the land on this beach and eating seafood and all that sort of stuff. And they'd been catching it, and they'd been doing this for about 2 years. And this gentleman comes down and starts screaming at him and all the rest of it, and they abscond, and they end up in a place called Petersburg. And this is where we know that Ivo's got some sort of secret, because he doesn't talk about his life prior to meeting Tib. And so we know he's got some sort of secret, and he left his home, like he ran away from home. And she, over the years, has been trying to get this secret out of him, but he's never actually told her until they get to Petersburg, and then he reveals what his secret is. And it was after he witnessed a brutal attack on two people that they had met at the tavern, and done by a priest. And so it's really hard to sort of talk about this book without giving too much information away. So I'm going to try and be as vague as I possibly can. But it revolves around this priest hurting these gentlemen because they're homosexual. And basically the church is in charge of purging this out of society. And so you can sort of get an idea of where it's going to go, right? But you might be thinking, A Little Bit of Trickery, what is this about? Well, fast forward a few years, Tib has, you know, landed on her feet. Ivo and her went their separate ways after Petersburg. He left, and she was devastated by this because he said he was never going to leave her or anything like that. And so it fast forwards a little bit, and they meet up again, and it's so hard to talk about this book without giving stuff away. But anyway, they at the time the church was still trying to purge, because this is in the 1500s. So they're trying to purge out homosexuality. They're trying to purge out infidelity or adultery or whatever you want to call it. So priests were encouraged to make a public spectacle of these wrongdoers or sinners in the eyes of the church. And so essentially, in my opinion, it was like a bit of scaremongering, in, you know, to scare people into compliance, I guess. And they used the church to purge this out. And oh man, this book was so good that I was so connected to these characters and all of the characters that were in this book. So we had Ivo, who was homosexual. We've got Tib, who looks different. She's got very pale skin, very white hair. She's very petite and small. Then we've got what was his name? I've forgotten his name. Anyway, another character is in it. He has what I would equate to a large red birthmark all over his body. And then, you know, we've got a couple other characters that are in there as well that become friends with Tib after she joins an acting troupe. So they go from town to town and they perform for the townsfolk and stuff like that. And she becomes part of that. And I cannot remember his name, and he was a big part of the book. It's just completely escaped me. But anyway, they end up together, her and Tib and this other gentleman. They end up together, and basically they end up meeting up again with Ivo, and there's this whole thing that plays out. But I was so connected to all of these characters that anytime something was happening to them, that they were in jeopardy or in peril or whatever, my heart was racing and I couldn't stop. Like, I had phone calls to make and everything, and I was putting them off because I just wanted to keep listening to making sure, you know, that they were going to be okay and all that sort of stuff. I just absolutely adore this book, and I really think it was because of the narrator that did the audiobook. Now let me just bring it up because it was this last book that I listened to. A Little Trickerie by Rosanna Pike was narrated by Miss Laura Aikman, I think is how you pronounce it. Aikman. Yeah, Aikman. And they did a fantastic job at narrating this. I felt like I was there with Tib and the things that she was going through and the things that she was coming up with, and she was quite a smart little clued on girl, you know, like full on in survival mode. And yeah, it was just absolutely amazing. And so she is trying to figure out, you know, her place in the world and how she was going to get that, and all she wanted was what her mother wanted, was a roof over her head. And her, you know, and we get to know her mother as well, the person that she was. And I would go as far as saying that her mother suffered from depression, and because manic depression as well, because she'd be dancing in the rain one moment and then Tib would say, but I know that then, you know, she'd be down and crying the next moment. You know, she'd be euphoric saying we don't need a roof, and then in the next breath she'd be saying, oh, we, you know, she'd be devastated because they don't have a roof. And she made, you know, questionable choices throughout her life, and all the while teaching Tib how to survive. And yeah, and so we were getting that through Tib's perspective, how she seen her mother. And it was a little bit jarring at first because I'm like, hang on, didn't her mum die? Because she'd be saying ma and stuff like that. But it ended up being really an interesting book, and how it was written and how it played out and everything like that. Essentially, it's just a historical fiction with the church as a bit of a backdrop in there, but also, you know, misfits of the world and how they fit in and how they can come together. And because essentially these people wouldn't have come across each other had they not been in that situation. You know, like Tib would not have met Ivo had she not been wandering along that beach, and then she wouldn't have met her partner if she hadn't have been up a tree when that troop had come along. Like, it was all just little circumstances that happened that brought them all together until the final conclusion of the book, which was absolutely fantastic. But I can honestly say this book had my heart racing for Tib. It had me just feeling so much pain and empathy for the other characters as well, of things that they had gone through and how they were treated and stuff like that. And I think Rosanna Pike did a fantastic job with this. I've actually given this 4 stars. I had an absolutely fantastic time with it, and I highly recommend to anybody that wants a good historical fiction set in the 1500s, where you've got a group of unlikely characters coming together, also tackling some of the issues of the day around the church, and, you know, and how far they would go and all that sort of stuff. And that's all I'm going to say on the book, because if I talk anymore, I'm going to end up giving spoilers. But I think that you will really enjoy this book if you love found family, you know, survival stories, adventure stories, because in a way it is a little bit adventurous as well. And just that general warm, fuzzy feeling of when you find a family is always good, in my opinion, in a book. So that's the rating I'm going to give it, is a 4 star. I'm so glad that this was on the list, because I have never even heard of this author before, and I would not have known anything about this book had it not been on the list. And that is another reason why I love the Women's Prize for Fiction this time of year when the long list comes out, because I always come across authors that I have never heard of, don't know anything about them. And this year we've got quite a number of debut novels, and quite a number, like all but I think all but one that I had, one author I had heard of. All the rest I hadn't heard of. So yeah, so it's a quite interesting time for me right now, because I'm getting a lot of reading in, and meeting a whole new spectrum of authors that I think that I'm going to like their work. But that is it from me for A Little Bit of Trickerie by Rosanna Pike. I will leave a link down below where you can check out the book out a little bit further. you could always do a YouTube search. I'm sure someone will be talking about it. A few people that I have seen that have read this said pretty much said the same thing, that they couldn't put it down. After I finished reading it, I went back and, you know, read a few blurbs from a few reviews and went and looked and seen what other people were saying about it and whatnot, and generally the same sort of feelings. So I think that you'll be onto a winner if you pick this one up. But before you go, if you haven't already done so, make sure you subscribe to the channel and ring all bell notifications. I've just given a jump over to the like button and click that to a thumbs up, and tell me in the comments, have you read this book, or are you planning to read this book? And if you did read it, what did you think about it? I, as I said, thoroughly enjoyed it. But that is it from me today. Have a wonderful day, everybody, and of course I will see you in the next video. Bye for now.